Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 and the last week of UT Mental. It's been a fantastic ride. But today we're talking about resilience, so stay tuned. So resilience, what does that even mean? To me, resilience means being able to stand back up. I think a lot of times when dealing with mental illness and struggling with mental health, it's easy to get wrapped up in the idea that there's something to beat. And for a lot of people, struggles with mental health and mental illness are a lifelong thing. I think I've accepted, or I'm working on accepting that for myself, but I know that there's things that I'm going to have to do for the rest of my life and behaviors that I'm going to have to take on to be healthy and to live a good and full life and to be resilient, to be able to stand back up. And standing back up means that we have to acknowledge when we fall. I believe that we live in a society that is a little bit advertent to that, advertent to feeling things and being emotional. We live in a society that really encourages us to put up armor from when we were little kids, to say, don't feel this, keep going, ignore it, move on. And that's not good to process things. We need to be able to process things and work through things internally when we're dealing with, shame and failure and relapse and all those really tough times in our lives. And we need to also acknowledge that those things might happen again, and they likely will happen again. And every time it happens, we have to have a strategy for dealing with those things. It's not necessarily healthy to go to things like blame or anger when you're feeling those things. And it's such a knee-jerk reaction, and I get it, but they're not productive. They don't move you forward, and they don't help you become more resilient. But they happen, and it's important that we acknowledge that too. Dr. Brené Brown writes this really incredible concept that I think I've really taken to about writing your shitty first draft. And what that means is, really letting yourself experience those things, experience the initial moments, the blame, the anger, and then taking a step back and reflecting on why you feel that way and where are those things coming from. Because that gets at the heart of kind of what you're feeling and maybe why, and helps you process things. There's always going to be a difference between the story you're telling yourself and what's actually a reality. In cognitive behavioral therapy, something that's really focused on is evidence. Do the thoughts, do the feelings that you're experiencing have evidence to ground them in? A lot of the time, the stories we tell ourselves don't have evidence. They're just a result of all that shame and anger and blame and those kind of really negative emotions coming and hurting us. That's why it's important to challenge those shitty first drafts, to really get at them and pick them apart and understand why you're feeling a certain way. A tip I have for doing that is really quite simple: journaling. We know journaling is really effective, and I mentioned it in the previous video, but it helps. It helps to put your thoughts down in words and to be able to take a step back from them, say, they're on this paper, and I'll come back to them. And another really important part of resilience is that you can challenge your shitty first drafts with all the people that are supporting you, your family, your friends. Those people in your life want to be there and want to challenge those immediate negative thoughts you have because they see you in a different light. Doing that is one step in learning how to talk to yourself like you talk to someone you love. Some of the things we tell ourselves we would never tell to someone we love. That's because a lot of times we're so hard on ourselves when we don't really need to be. However, to do that, we really need to get to know ourselves, get to know what kind of things trigger strong emotions in us and why, because that's going to help us be more resilient in the future. If we know who we are and we know we're getting into a situation where something potentially, triggering is going to happen, we can prepare ourselves. I know for me, a really big trigger is just academics. When I feel like I'm not smart enough, it really, really gets me. So I know if I'm going to be faced with, a bad mark or just a bad test, I try to be as forgiving to myself as possible and acknowledge that there's more than just a mark at stake here. I know I get amped up and I get upset about things that, sometimes just aren't in my control. So being more resilient to me means that I know those marks aren't tied to my self-worth. And that's something I'm really working on and hopefully I'll get better at. But for everyone, it's going to be different. And that's really at the heart of resilience. Resilience is different for everyone, but it's a process of learning what works for you and how best do you bounce back. You're on the floor, you're dirty, you're covered in mud. I don't know where all this mud is coming from, but we're all in the mud. And learning to get back up and learning the best way to get back up. But remember to celebrate the little victories. I think we often ignore those times when we really do good by ourselves and we brush them off like they're nothing. But really, every little thing counts towards being more resilient. So that's it. That's UT Mental for me. I want to thank everyone for all the support. I mean, I've had people walk up to me kind of randomly like, hey, you're the guy from UT Mental. And it's so great. It's so great to know that people are watching these videos and listening and hopefully getting something from them. I know I did. But thank you. Seriously, thank you for watching. And who knows? Maybe you'll see me again soon. But before you go, make sure you check out all the other vloggers on the sidebar here. Every time I do this, I do something ridiculous with my hands. But really, check them out. They've done such an incredible job, and I'm so honored to be a part of UT Mental Season 3 with them. And I really hope these vlogs have helped you, or at least, made you feel better, made you smile, made you laugh. I don't know. I've had a really, really great time doing them. And like I said, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen next? I don't know if we're going to get renewed for Season 4. We probably will be. Spoiler alert. But thank you, and have a great day.